Hello, welcome to my channel, and if you already clicked on this video, you already know what I'm going to talk about, the SAT. But more specifically on making a study plan for the SAT along with some tips and tricks. But before I move on, I want to let you guys know that I'll be splitting this video up into different parts, so you can skip around the video and just watch the parts that you care about. So, all that said, let's get started. First off, what is the SAT? The SAT is a standardized college entrance exam that most American students take to get into college. Now, the SAT is split up into two major sections, the reading and writing section and the math section. These two major sections are then split up into two more to give you a total of 4 sections. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what each section tests you on, but basically, the reading and writing sections test you on your reading comprehension skills and your grammar skills, whereas the math section tests you on your math skills, basically algebra and some geometry. Now, these two major sections are graded on a scale from 200 to 800. So when you add it all up, the SAT will give you a score ranging from 400 to 1600. And that's basically what the SAT is about. Now, before I move on into the study plan and the details about it, I just want to touch up on my experience with the SAT. So, I first took it around September of 2020, so this year. And during that time, I was able to get a 1440. Then I took 2 months to prepare again and make a study plan, all that stuff. And I took it again in December of 2020, so same year this year. And I was able to get a 1520, a really big increase from my first score. And during both times, I was able to use the same study plan, and I just kept practicing to get better at it. So speaking about a study plan and preparing, let's dive into the details and how to make a study plan that will fit for you and help you succeed on the SAT. Now, before you start making a study plan for the SAT, there are 2 important things that you should consider. First off, decide what score you want to get on the SAT. And this is really dependent on what school or university you want to get into. Now, let's say I want to get into the University of Virginia, for example. If I go online and check their admission details, it tells me that I need at least a score of 1340 to be considered in the application process, while a score of 1500 or more makes me above average and gives me a higher chance of getting into the school. Now, when I look at that score range between 1340 and 1500 or more, I want to aim for a score of 1460, so I have a good chance of getting into the University of Virginia. Now, you want to do that for every school or university you want to get into, or the ones that are in your priority. But you want to make sure that you're aiming for a score that's reasonable. You're not actually overworking yourself to get a score that's actually not needed to get into said school or university. The second thing you want to consider is whether you want to self-study or opt in for a service or a tutor. Personally, I think it's much better to self-study for several reasons. First off, it's much cheaper than paying for a tutor or a service. And moreover, it can help you become more accountable and invested in actually studying for the SAT. And this could help you learn more and even retain more information and could possibly help you do better on the SAT overall. But for some people, opting in for a tutor or a service might be better than self-studying. And if you're that kind of person, then obviously go ahead and do that. But if you're not sure about which path you want to take, then try out all the options. You could self-study by using Khan Academy, which is a free service. But you can also opt in for services like the Princeton Review and try out their trials. And if you're not happy, then choose a different path. But just make sure you're choosing a path that's ideal for you and you're comfortable with. And now that we've looked into these 2 important things, let's actually dive into some tips and tricks so you can make your ideal study plan for the SAT. So now for some tips and guidelines for your study plan. One of the biggest things you can do while preparing for the SAT is starting early. By starting early, not only do you have more time to prepare for the SAT, it can actually ease the stress of preparing for the SAT since you have more time. So I'd recommend that you start practicing for the SAT the week that you sign up to take the test. This way you can maximize your preparation time. Next up, make sure to structure your study plan into weeks. So let's say I have 2 months until the test date. I want to make sure that I'm splitting up those 2 months into weeks. So in this case, it would be 8 weeks. And during each week, I want to make sure I'm doing the following. On the weekdays, I want to make sure that I'm practicing the skills and the concepts that are tested on the SAT. And this could be stuff like reading a passage and doing the reading comprehension, or doing math problems that are on a specific concept. Then on the weekend, I want to make sure I'm taking a practice test and then going over that practice test. Specifically, you want to make sure that you're taking the practice test on Saturday. Most SAT test dates are on Saturdays, so if you take it on a Saturday, you'd be more comfortable on test day. And adding on to that, you want to make sure that you're taking the practice test in test day-like conditions. So that would include taking the test in a quiet location, taking the test in the time limit that College Board gives you, and so on. Then on Sunday, you want to make sure that you're going over the test that you took the day before, and you're going over stuff that you missed so you wouldn't get those concepts wrong in future tests. This way you're building upon your knowledge and constantly improving the concepts that you know. Finally, you want to make sure that you're consistent in your study plan. You want to make sure that you're putting in at least some time each day into the SAT. This way, you can build upon past knowledge and then retain the same knowledge, and this way, it can help you do better on the test. Consistency is very much key to the SAT, and that's one of the biggest ways that you can constantly improve your score. And that's it for tips and guidelines, but there's still one more thing I want to go over before I end this video. The final thing I want to talk about in this video is books and courses people can use to study for the SAT. And just deciding which books and courses to use or buy can be confusing and daunting. But in my experience of studying for the SAT, I found out that some of these books and courses are just better than the others, and that's what I'll be talking about. While studying and preparing for the SAT, I personally like some of these books and courses over the others, and I hope that the ones that I'm sharing right now will help you while you're studying for your SAT. So let's start off with the courses. Probably the most popular one or tool that people use to study for the SAT is Khan Academy, and it makes sense since it's free. And this is a reliable tool as well, since College Board and Khan Academy collaborated to make this course. Now, an overview of this course would be that it provides practice problems in all the topics that are tested on the SAT, along with tests that you can take, and it auto-grades it for you as well. So it's a pretty nifty tool. Next up is UWorld. Now, I've never personally used UWorld, but some people swear by it. And it's very similar to Khan Academy's course in the way that it provides you practice questions as well as practice SAT tests. But the one difference between this one and Khan Academy's course is that this one had no collaboration with the College Board, so it's not official practice, but the questions and the tests that they provide are very similar to the questions and tests that you'll see on the actual SAT. So it's a pretty good tool. Now moving on to the books. Starting off with College Panda, and College Panda has a line of books that include 5 of them. 4 mainly for the main part of the SAT, excluding the essay. 2 of them focus on the math section, while 2 of them focus on the writing section. And these books basically introduce the concepts that are tested on the test and go over them in depth, as well as giving you practice questions to test what you learn. So these are obviously great books, and I personally use the College Panda as my main source to study for the SAT, so I strongly recommend it. Next up is Erica Meltzer's reading and writing books, and these are very similar to the College Panda books in the way that they introduce topics and concepts, as well as providing practice for you to test your skills on. And then finally there is the Black Book, and the Black Book is different than the last 2 books and the courses because it focuses more on helping you study better for the SAT rather than focusing on the actual concepts, even though it does go over that later on. But this is a good book as well, and if you want to pick it up, I recommend it as well. And that's it for this video. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell because I'll be posting more content in the future relating to the SAT and other stuff. And that's it. I'll see you on the next one.